Welcome to this panel discussion jointly organized by NASSCOM and Times Techies. My name is Sujit John, and I will be moderating the session together with my colleague Shilpa Phadnis. Today, we will discuss the dramatic transformation of the BPM, or the Business Process Management sector, in the past 20 years, and how new digital technologies are continuing to transform the sector that serves global clients and the way it serves global clients. We'll also discuss what all this means for employees and those looking to work in this industry. This is an industry that we used to call BPO in its early years, and the segment was best known then for its call center services. Many of you will remember Chetan Bhagat's One Night at the Call Center, which had this industry as its setting. But today, the segment has become critical to the world's biggest companies. Recently, Genpact CEO Tiger Tyagarajan told us that if the BPM industry were to stop many of its services, the world will stop. To discuss all this and more, we have with us a very high-profile panel, some of the top people in this industry. We have with us Keshav Murugesh. Keshav is the Group CEO of WNS Global Services. He has been with WNS for over 10 years now. It's a company with over 43,000 people across 16 countries. He's a past chairman of NASSCOM. He's also chaired the NASSCOM BPM Council for 2 consecutive terms. Prior to joining WNS, Keshav was CEO of Syntel. Welcome, Keshav.
Thank you.
We have Rohit Kapoor. Rohit is vice chairman and CEO of EXL. He co-founded EXL in 1999 and has since held various roles, including CFO, president, and COO. He led the IPO of EXL in 2006. Prior to founding EXL, Rohit served in various senior executive roles at Bank of America and Deutsche Bank, both in America and in Asia. Rohit was the previous chairman of the NASSCOM BPM Council. Welcome, Rohit.
Thanks, Shilpa.
Partha Desarkar. Partha is CEO of Hinduja Global Solutions, or HGS. He has been CEO of HGS since 2006. Prior to that, he was COO of the Hinduja TMT, the technology, media, and telecommunications arm of the Hinduja Group. And before that, with Deloitte, GE Capital International Services, and Bank of America. He's the current chairman of the NASSCOM BPM Council. Welcome, Partha.
We have KS Vishwanathan, or KSV as he's fondly called. KSV is Vice President of Industry Initiative at NASSCOM. He previously held strategic and leadership positions at Wipro, Dell, Azim Premji Foundation, and Hillman Laboratories. He was the first country manager for Dell in India in 2000. Welcome, KSV.
Thank you all.
I'll start by asking Keshav, how much has this industry changed in the past 20 years, and how critical are you to global companies today? And I'll ask all the others to pitch in after Keshav does. Keshav?
Sure. So, it's really nice to be here, and particularly among this coalition of competitors. I must say, all of us compete so fiercely in the marketplace, but we are also great friends, making sure that the industry as a whole is constantly evolving and growing. So it's such a pleasure to be here. I completely agree with that statement that Tiger made, because I think all of us have made it at different times, that without the BPM industry, it would actually mean the death knell of many companies and many industries across the globe. And if you just start today with the kind of impact that COVID-19 itself had on global businesses and companies all over, and the way this industry responded, bringing forward assets that should have taken many years to have actually evolved to this level, and leveraging all of that to, first of all, ensure the safety of our clients, but more safety of our employees, but more importantly, to ensure that not only were the lights kept on for our clients, but we operated in a model that had never been seen before. And I think the way clients have now responded to the way the Indian tech industry and the BPM industry actually has responded has been amazing. Now, just look at the last 15 or 20 years. In the 90s, this was nothing but a simple standalone model of basic support and telemarketing. And it was marked by capacity building and some frenzied kind of hiring, if you ask me. In early 2000s, the push happened towards offshore models and global delivery slowly started. In the mid 2000s, the movement went more to OpEx. We took over multiple client processes, started servicing them end to end. We added technology, we added analytics, we added so many other things. And in the current situation and the pre-COVID kind of time frame, we had actually added actionable insight. We were the people investing behind the new age technologies. We were the people driving our clients towards digital models and transformation. And when COVID happened, therefore, what we are doing is telling every one of our clients and every one of our prospects that, first of all, without us, it's going to be very difficult for you to manage your day-to-day business. And more importantly, we are the strategic partners that can help you with your next wave of growth. And more importantly, in a manner that is planning not just for BCP, but for what I call PCP or pandemic continuity planning. And I'll stop here and wait for the others.
Okay. Rohit?
Thanks, Sujit. So, look, it's a great time for us to be reflecting on the Indian BPM industry today and look back for the last 20 years as to how the evolution has taken place. The way I would like to describe it is that the evolution has taken place along two vectors. The first vector is that the BPM industry in India has become closer and closer to the end customer. And in fact, we've become so close to the end customer that now we are into the minds of the end customer, and we are helping our clients figure out what is it that their end customers actually need, when should that be provided to them, how should that be provided to them, and how can we ensure that their customers are extremely happy and their experience in terms of interaction, engagement is all very good. So if you take a look at how we started in 1999 and 2000, we were far removed from the customer. In fact, I remember the time our clients would tell us, just do everything at the back, but stay, as far away from the customer as possible. I think the call center piece is just the interaction piece, but the intelligence piece of dealing with the customer, that we've come a long, long way. And today, our clients depend upon us to advise them, to kind of help them to manage the end customer. And that relationship and that experience with the customer is, I think, what the BPM industry is doing. So that's one vector, which is going from being far away from the end customer to today actually predicting, even before the customer knows what he or she wants, being able to kind of serve that to that customer and helping our clients on that dimension. The second dimension is, I think we've gone from tactical to strategic. In the past, we used to handle, pieces of work. There used to be a cost efficiency play. There used to be a productivity play. There used to be, can you just do this work much better, faster, cheaper, much better. Now it's become a lot more strategic. So if you think about all the conversations that all of us are having in the BPM industry in India with our clients, it's no longer with the process owner. The conversation is now with the CEO. And the conversation is, how do we strategically transform your business? How do we embed digital? How do we change your business model? How do we make your business model a lot more resilient? And the conversation has become very, very strategic. And so when I think about it in these two vectors, one on the customer vector and the second on the strategic vector, the power and the impact of the BPM industry that it's having in the global marketplace is phenomenal. And I think this is just going to continue, going forward.
We become so close to the customer. Partha, give us some idea of the different kinds of work that you do for your customers globally?
Firstly, I want to ensure that you can hear me. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear
properly?
you. Yeah,
Okay, I've been having
Yeah.
internet challenges.
I know you'll be having some problems. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I struggle to not call myself a hospital because I've got 1,500 nurses, which can run quite a few medium-sized hospitals, right? So when you talk about the diversity of the work we do, I will go to the extent of saying that, listen, we are almost a full-fledged medical service provider. So, you know, it's coincidental that you call me a BPM firm. Today, when there is a problem with somebody's health, the first port of call is us, where we are saying that, okay, is that heartburn related to something that's an emergency that needs you to go somewhere to an emergency room, or is it something that will go away with just having an antacid or just lying down and all of that? If your child has swallowed a coin, we are telling you what to do, right? So from giving active medical advice and guiding a person through a triaging process, whether that requires an emergency route visit, whether that requires somebody else, to a patient outreach program, where I'm saying that, okay, you are supposed to go for this diagnostic visit. Have you done that? Your medicines are finished. Are you having your medicine? Because we are also helping our insurance company to reduce the cost of care and therefore trying to manage preventative care and saying that, okay, if somebody is ill and has a regime of medicines to follow, then he or she is actually having that regime. Otherwise, there will be a readmission. So that's on one side. Okay. On the other side, therefore, I call myself, I sometimes struggle, I have an identity crisis.
So it's a hospital that you're serving. For the first one, it's a hospital that you are.
No. We are serving insurance companies we are serving hospitals, health insurance companies and hospitals, right?
Okay.
But I have an identity crisis today. Am I a medical service provider or am I a BPM player, right? I think the lines have become merged, blurred because of the way we've gone inside everything that we do for our clients. So that's just one angle. On the other side,
I was told you need to be a little louder.
1 minute, let me just see.
I think I'm finding it fine, but my folks at the back are saying it should be a little louder.
Is this any better?
Yes. Yeah, much better.
Okay, just let me hold my mic. So that is one part, right? The other part is reputation management for our brand. So that is just completely a different part, right? Across the world, we've heard several instances where, you know, in the day and age of social media, where the world is alive 24 hours, 365, something that somebody says about your brand and it is damaging can become viral very quickly if you don't address it and nip it in the bud, right? So therefore, we are working with the PR companies of our clients and saying that, hey, this is something that has just cropped up in this country that pertains to your brand. And you need to look at this because it is serious and it can have a possible reputational damage. And therefore, please address this immediately. So social media has a lot of stuff that is junk, right? People just say, they put in like, they put in all kinds of stuff. How do you figure out what is the most important thing that your client needs to manage so far as online reputation management is concerned, by screening out all the noise that is there, which is relevant, right? So that's another angle of what we do. If you were looking at what we do for a client like our and client. Today, as you know, telecom and technology is life from a work at home situation. You saw how I struggled with my internet. And how do you troubleshoot people who are trying to work from home? Deep troubleshooting. It's not just about saying that, okay, this is what you need to do, but deep troubleshooting, level 1, level 2, level 3. So the whole spectrum of work that you do is incredibly diverse today. So just to answer your question.
Okay. KSV, you've seen the industry from the beginning and you've been with NASSCOM for so long and the industry itself. Your insights.
Very interesting. When I was in the service providers selling to all these gentlemen when the respective companies before, what I had seen them in 2000 and what I see them in 2020 is completely different. From a given industry perspective, industry perspective, in the entire industry started to today, the entire industry today employs close about 1.2 million people, 1.2 million people. And this is the only industry, approximately about 38% of them are women, right? Compared to all other consultation IT, BPM employs maximum women. I can say both at Keshav's organization, Partha's organization, Rohit's organization, say several others, there are people who joined the journey in 2000, continue to work for them for even after 20 years, put it across.
Really? Despite all the night shifts and all that, women are a big proportion.
I think you hear these leaders, they will tell you more. Women proportion is still the largest in the BPM industry. It's close to about.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, ours is 44%.
Wow.
Yeah, ours is 45.
The industry has grown. I remember talking to these leaders in 2011. We said the work, what we do is not reflected the title, what we hold. So we changed from BPO to BPM as we coast across 9 years in 2020, right? So BPM is deeply enriches the value what we bring across. So I give one more perspective. You quoted Chetan Bhagat's book, and possibly in 2003, 2005, 67% of the people were, I use the word non-technical, maybe an undergraduate and the graduate students at best. Today, if you look at it, the composition is completely changed. The industry employs 44% of people being a commerce graduates and arts graduates. Possibly 8 to 10% of them are medical professionals. Close to about 8 to 10% are chartered accountants, 8 to 10% are engineers, and 8 to 10% other subject matter specialists. No other IT industry component in India has got such a wide spread of this subject matter specialists in its workforce than the BPO industries. As when Partha says he's got an identity crisis healthcare, I'm sure Keshav as well as Rohit wondering, am I in just a graduating shop in the entire spectrum of people working for that? Third, the big shift, what you're saying, especially in the last 5 years, the big shift what we've taken is the share of the customer interaction services, or what you call earlier used to call as a call center services, customer interaction services, has dropped down to about say 39%. 39%.
Call centers are 39%.
I will not use the word call center. The customer interaction services.
Okay, got it.
Customer interaction services is approximately 39%, and 39% is not a pure play customer interaction service as in the past. They're not integrated into the rest of the processes. F&A accounting, which used to be close to about 13%, has gone up to 22% of the total portfolio of services. And more importantly, as all of them alluded before, the knowledge services, which is about 9% of total pie in 2007, is approximately about 22% of the total pie now. So knowledge services, again, I'm saying from in cognitive automation, in intelligent robotic process automation, everything put together, this industry is completely transformed. So I am not hesitant to vocabulary if I use the word what Keshav said and what he alluded before. Without the industry today, the world disorder is in order.
Disorder is in order. Shilpa?
If you look at the evolution of the BPM industry, the nomenclature has changed from BPO to BPM. If you can talk about how this has resonated with your stakeholders, be it your customers and your employees.
Sure. Should I start? Would you like me to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one very interesting thing was when the industry itself was created many years ago, for whatever reason, we got lumped under the IT and ITES kind of umbrella. And even within NASSCOM, there was only one body, so to speak. But the reality is, over the years, each one of the businesses that were actually under the umbrella of NASSCOM also actually became far more specialized as we kept investing in certain trends, and therefore we needed to start differentiating between IT services, BPM, other things. And also, we looked at how the media, other stakeholders were perceiving, the whole BPO business. We found that people thought that we were low end, that we were not getting trained or educated people into the company, that we were doing, mechanical, commoditized kind of work, that we were not investing in new technology areas, things like that. And you actually spoke about one night at the call center. But actually, if you go back a few years, you'll see when we ran this initiative, we encouraged some of the reporters from your own, kind of newspaper as well as your sister papers to come in and start interviewing employees. And they wrote an article. In fact, it was called "One Day in the Call Center." And they said when we interviewed these people, we found we're actually now talking to people who are engineers, who are chartered accountants, who have PhDs in mathematics, who are doctors coming in from AFMC, AIMS, and places like that. And that is when we said we need to go out with a message so that not just the industry, but every stakeholder of the industry actually understands that we have moved away from the old BPO model, which is around just plain outsourcing or offshoring, to one where we were delivering much more value to clients, where customer insight was being driven, where we were leading clients. And as Rohit said, we were actually operating as an extension of their enterprises. And that is why we actually ran an initiative called Being World Worthy at that point in time. And very cleverly, we also distanced ourselves from the traditional IT services players. And over a period of time, you will see even NASSCOM created a separate council called BPM Council, of which, in fact, both these gentlemen were chairs. Partha is the chair now. I was also there. But that kind of differentiation and that kind of excitement we created enabled us to go out and tell employees also that you are going to get into a career choice, which is very different from the other 5 verticals that are part of the Indian technology industry. And actually, it's been a very exciting journey for us all through since then.
Sujit, you're muted.
Thank you.
I think Vamsi muted. Are there good career progression paths?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As KSV said, there are people who have been around with us for more than 20 years. In WNS and generally across the industry, 45% of the industry are women. In fact, this industry is built upon the power of women, very frankly, right? And people see a long-term career. And if you ask me, Industry 4.0 will be owned by the BPM industry, right? The future post-COVID is so exciting based on the way India has stepped up and managed this crisis for global clients. The expectations from clients around new areas, more skin in the game, how it will become far more intelligent, more automated, and the trust in us that we were able to manage this and not dilute security, both operational risk or cybersecurity risks, is very high. And in all of this, obviously, the people play such an important part. And everyone will tell you, as you interact, that we are all the time investing in creating new programs around talent, upskilling them, and actually driving it not just for our own companies, but all of us together are driving it for the whole industry, so that India as a country will continue to rule the roost for the next few years, right? So huge potential and very exciting for people with this industry.
This is exactly what KSV was telling us before we started the webinar. But before I bring in KSV, Partha and Rohit, the pandemic has actually helped all of you to gain a lot more trust with the customers. And as KSV says, all of you seem to be getting more orders than previously. What is the sense you have?
Okay. I think the pandemic has certainly been a watershed period for the BPM industry. And if you roll back to end of March this year, I think there was a very genuine fear amongst all of us that this entire effort that we had built over the last 19.5 years of building the BPM industry could suddenly just evaporate because of the pandemic. And the reason for that was none of us were prepared to deal with the pandemic. None of us had approvals in place to be able to do work remotely and do work from home. The infrastructure was not, really conducive to support that. The regulatory environment was not conducive to support that. Our clients were not, helping us in terms of the approvals that needed to be there. Information security was a huge concern. So frankly, I think in March and April of this year, the industry actually had a huge, huge risk and a threat to it that could, in fact, evaporate its very existence. But where we are sitting today, I think, we've come out much stronger than where we were before. And there are a few reasons for that. I think the regulators and the government acted extremely fast to be able to allow us to be able to adopt different business models of supporting our clients. NASSCOM pitched in and kind of helped us, and they were on the ball 24/7. KSV, we cannot thank KSV and Devjani and others at NASSCOM enough for everything that they did to enable this. Our clients acted as true partners and worked with us. And most of all, our employees, I mean, the amount of risk that they took, and then they went out of their way to kind of make sure that the business of our clients is protected and we managed to serve them. That was fantastic. So today you fast forward, you move from March, April, and you come to September of the same year. The pandemic is still there. The number of cases in India is climbing still, at a fast pace, and it's got a large number of, cases out there. But from an operational delivery perspective, from an innovation perspective, from a value add perspective, the industry is actually performing way above what it was performing before. And I think there are some few fundamental reasons for that. The first and foremost is the human ingenuity. I just think the employees that we have in India, the 1.2 million employees that this industry employs in India, they are all fantastic and they can pivot at scale. Very few countries or organizations can pivot at scale. I think in India and in our industry, we've been able to pivot at scale where employees have learned how to be able to serve customers in a completely different business model and practically do that overnight. So our clients haven't missed a heartbeat. They've learned new skills. We've learned how to manage the that workforce and provide continuity of service to them. And when you think about it, today in India, I think at least for us, almost 95% of the work that we are doing is all being done from home. And the resiliency that has been brought in is at the highest level, because now you got everybody in a completely distributed environment, and the ability to serve our clients has become so much better. So the resiliency has become really high. The productivity has actually gone through the roof because everybody is focused in on delivering to the customer, and we are all aligned towards serving the customer. The innovation, that's kind of really moving ahead, because everybody's applying their mind as to how to be able to kind of help our clients in this environment, because there's a lot of change. And as these things happen, I think the recognition by our clients and the conviction amongst our clients to do more work with us, that's increasing. And therefore, I do think we are all signing up more clients, more new clients want to come in, more business wants to come in. And I think we are in a much, much better spot today than where we were just a few months back.
Artha?
I would tend to agree with, there isn't nothing much that I can add to what Rohit and Keshav said. I think it was a massive endorsement of Indian thought leadership and the fact that we pulled it off globally. It's not just about India, just one point that I wanted to say, because all of us are global players, right? So we pulled it off in Philippines, we pulled it off in Colombia, we pulled it off in UK, Canada, US, wherever we operate. And it's built the balance sheet of trust with our clients in such scale that I do believe that there's a lot more coming our way. And one of the things, if I may dare say so, is some of us third parties have actually done it faster and more effectively than their own in-house shops. And that's actually put us in an even better light, because we almost did not have any downtime. We were up within 5 days of this going down, and that some of their own captive centers actually struggled. So I think it's been a massive endorsement of thought leadership and execution.
Really? Okay. Case, we want to add, I mean, you were saying exactly this before we started the program.
No, you are right, because I'm echoing what I hear from Rohit and Keshav and
Okay.
offline. So I am communicating online in your channel today completely. But even otherwise, the kind of the balance sheet of trust that Partha talked about has certainly has gone up. And what has also happened is the trust on India itself has gone up as a country that what we can deliver to. And I completely endorse with what Rohit said earlier. The government and regulatory, that Keshav was the chair for NASSCOM that time, the way they moved and got the entire thing done for the entire industry were the three big factors. But today, the government is also expecting this industry to do more. And we're also asking the government to do more. And I think the new equilibrium will also get done very, very soon.
Actually, I would like to add something here, and which is, essentially around the fact that if you actually poll customers, right? I mean, to Rohit's point, we interact with them constantly now. You have to understand that even the CXOs on the client side are locked up at home now. So it is now easier to actually have these kind of conversations, even 15-minute conversations with them. And it's amazing, because feedback that I have been getting, and in fact, consistently many of us have been getting, is that India in particular and Indian teams responded extremely well to this crisis. Obviously, NASSCOM, the government, and the industry coming together and working as a team helped, but sent out a very strong signal that we were not trying to do it only for ourselves. Right? No company did it for themselves. They did it for the industry and the country as a whole. Point number one. Second thing is, every client tells me that we really now understand who our true friends are during a crisis, because we saw how you guys responded. And therefore, as we look to expand our portfolios and our spend over the next few years, you are the people who will benefit. They also make a distinction between the mid-sized, smaller companies and some very large companies, because again, I don't want to only paint a good picture. They also felt that some companies, some players could not respond as well as others did. So all of these also must be taken into consideration when we look at it, because they all understand that the business has changed forever. Customer and client expectations have changed forever. The business models are going to be changed forever in the future. The models will be all about less physical handoffs, much more about technology-enabled models, much more about decision support kind of models, and therefore they want to work with partners who are actually an extension of their enterprise, and with whom they can have these intimate conversations and will help lead them, as opposed to wait looking for an order. Right? I think it has changed forever, and you will see that this confidence is starting to get reflected in even the market caps of some of these companies. And if you go to some of our websites, you will see clients are actually speaking that and actually saying that, we really love the way you guys helped us during this crisis. It's not easy to get that kind of an endorsement.
So nice to hear all that.
One more point, Sujit, allowed one point. I would say that as it is, the BPM industry was leading the digital acceleration journey for many of its clients. I don't think it would be wrong to say that got completely hasn't up the last 5 months time. The digitalization got accelerated and gave that additional tailwind. The industry was already invested big time on these areas. So that also gave across. The other project again is to build up the ecosystem, how they place together. Many of the people present in this room, the government of Karnataka, for example, called us up and said, and the COVID was just emerging in India, can you all collaborate together and give us a call center capacity for us to track and trace the people coming in, right? Believe it or not, bingo, 170 to 200 seats got created pro bono basis with the industry giving the 200 seats and created the capacity. Today, entire track and trace till May for Karnataka was done. That model was repeated in Haryana. That model is now getting repeated in Orissa. the entire industry, just as Keshav said, looked at country first, put the country first, industry second, company third, that motto, and just created the thing, and also earned that anything is possible in the industry chooses to do it together.
Wow. No, so good to hear all this. A lot of questions coming in. Shilpa?
Yeah. If you look at the BPM industry grew at 8.2%, $38 billion last fiscal. Close on the heels is also engineering services and R&D, that's at $33 billion. Over the last few years, we've seen number of such GCCs come into India. Do you think at some point they're chipping away at your business because they're also moving work in-house? Do you see that happening in your own businesses?
Yeah, so personally, I think GCC is a great validation and an endorsement of the business model in its fundamental sense, right? So if companies are adopting this business model and trying to build up their GCCs, I think actually it is a very, very positive thing. Now, there'll always be some level of shift of business between a third-party provider and a global captive company that's being created. But regardless, I think the business model is that work is actually being given to an entity which specializes in creating a lot more value, doing the work at a much lower cost, being able to innovate, being able to automate, being able to apply intelligence, and that fundamental business model is working. Now, we were talking about this just prior to getting onto this panel, that the pandemic has actually created a different kind of a thrust in terms of the shift between a GCC and a third-party provider. And most companies seem to be moving more in the direction of a third-party service provider, because today, diversification and reduction of concentration of risk is extremely important for introducing a higher level of resiliency. In fact, the three primary factors that people are looking at is resiliency is number one today, flexibility is number two, and innovation is number three. So when you talk about resiliency, actually you need to use a mix of third-party service providers and do the work yourself to get the best level of resiliency. When you talk about flexibility, you cannot be doing and having flexibility to scale up and deal with the volatility in the business and the recovery that is taking place without working with partners. So that comes in, really important. And innovation, when you talk about innovation, all the ideas are not going to come internally from an organization. You need diversity. You need diversity of thought. So you need that innovation, coming in from outside. So actually, these three fundamental issues are going to drive an ecosystem of third-party players. And there'll be some third-party players which will be winners and which will be really good in terms of helping their clients compete better, become a lot more scalable, and help them with their end customers. And I think that's the direction in which the market is going to go.
And if I may just add, I think those are excellent points. But also, if you look at just the experience of the last 6 or 7 months and what people are looking towards over the next maybe 12 months, 18 months, we don't know when the vaccine will actually be available and be available to everyone. I think every large player that has both third party and a captive is now asking this basic question in boardrooms as to what business am I in? Am I a bank, an insurance company, a healthcare company, or am I a company that should be in the business of running offshore captive centers, which is not core to me? So it's a very fundamental question that is being asked now. And therefore, how did WNS itself get created years ago? It came out of British Airways as a captive. So, somewhere along the way, people will start taking decisions based on value, based on, what is core to them in the longer term. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm hearing a lot of this from CEOs on the other side. The second is, I think quite a few of them found it extremely difficult to manage the crisis, right? Because again, you must understand that the way some of them are really structured, headquarters is in a completely different country. Their ability to be as nimble as some of us are is not the same. And therefore, again, the question again came up saying that, are we in the business of managing our end customers, or are we in the business of focusing on what is the new travel advisory coming out in Karnataka, running behind KSV to understand what's the latest thing, working for travel passes? See, I don't want to belittle these points, but these were huge, humongous challenges, right? We manage it as an industry, but I think the fundamental questions are now being asked in terms of what should I be in? The third thing I will say is that many clients told me who have both captive and third party, that magically in 6 months, they got rid of $500 million of cost or $1 billion of cost, which means they just went through their cost structure with a fine tooth comb and got rid of everything and now cut to the bone, which means going forward, their ability to manage the next crisis or just be ready is much stronger. And therefore, one more element of cost that they're looking at is this whole captive strategy. And as Rohit said, there will always be some that will perform extremely well and will need to be there. In fact, we are helping some of them to create a new GCCs, as KSV is aware. And those will be in areas that they will never outsource because it is so core to them.
Okay.
Just add a dimension. Forget it for the time being. GCC was a third party. Look at a global enterprise. They themselves were challenged with their enterprise transformation, digital transformation as the way of life to do things. They want to accelerate it fast. People who already know India, they know India stronger, they continue to invest so, whether it's in ER&D or otherwise. Even today, we are possibly penetrated in, say, in Fortune 500 companies, just about 130 companies. The 370 companies are still not present. They're also evaluating, should we come directly, should we go to the third party? And many of the companies present here are actually assisting their parent enterprise, the enterprises, to set up a successful model in here where they coexist, put it across. It is not this was other. The challenge is so youngest, they cannot do it themselves. They need to accelerate. They need to get the resilience that he talked about, flexibility that talked about, is all working, co-working together. End of the day, this is an endorsement of the GCC model created by service provider model. People understand India better than before what they knew.
Okay, great. A lot of questions coming in. This is from Hamshvi's Holy. What is the magnitude of chatbots with great accuracy in various segments? How many BPM segments have good chatbots? Partha, you want to take that?
Yeah, look, chatbots, is probably the easiest technology to implement, provided you have a good knowledge base.
Okay.
And the building in the knowledge base is actually the trick. It's not necessarily just designing the chatbot. The chatbot will actually become better and better and better, and you can almost come to a point where you can't make out who are you talking with, provided it's backed up by a very good knowledge base. Now, what we've done is, because of the number of decades that we've been at it, we just have the strongest knowledge base possible. Our knowledge base is probably the better than what our clients have, just because they've outsourced it for so long that, our knowledge base is clearly ahead of the knowledge base of our clients. And once you're able to program the chatbot to be able to pick up the latest in that specific knowledge, it just gets better and better. Okay. So yeah, clearly that is the technology of the future. And it just helps the fact that it's able to handle multiple transactions at the same time. So it's clearly a technology that is on today, and it's going to get even more stronger as we go forward.
And companies are using it a lot. Customers are beginning to.
Yes, absolutely. Look at it this way. I mean, how often do you have to wait for somebody to pick up a phone call, or how often do you have to, when you need agent assisted chat, pretty often you are in queue for a long time. Right. And therefore, when this technology comes in and almost immediately gives you the answer that you're looking for, it's just so much better a customer experience.
Okay, okay.
I'll put it this way. Traditionally, what was earlier called, what was coming to India as a back office, is now turning into a front office itself. The whole back office is now getting into front office. So all the people resources were otherwise serving the customer, the back office, Keshav and Rohit alluded before, they are now being equipped with more information and knowledge to serve the end customer directly. So chatbot is a journey in the first step. It became into intelligent or RPA automation. Now it's getting more and more cognitism is getting built so that efficiency and productivity are serving the end customer. NPS is what the new measure is. So it is on the increase, much more increase, and best is yet to come.
Okay.
I think I'd just like to add, with the pandemic, one of the biggest things that happened is the acceleration of digital transformation, which KSV spoke about. But the fundamental reason I think why that happened is that the consumer behavior changed. The consumer in the past would make a phone call, would write in, would physically visit a branch of a bank or whatever, and they had none of those choices, and they were all forced to, and it didn't matter whether you were 80 years old or whether you were a teenager or you were in a part of the world or another. Everybody, shifted to an online digital means of communicating. And as that behavior changed, the adoption of digital, which used to be the biggest roadblock in digital transformation, because you could implement the best digital platform, and if your end customers did not use it, it didn't really matter. But I think the pandemic forced the adoption of that, and it changed that consumer behavior. And I think that's become so important for all of our clients. And that's why the BPM industry has become so important to our clients, because we are helping them make that change and make that shift on digital transformation. And that includes the chatbot, that includes the RPA, that includes using AI. It includes using machine learning. That's become really critical.
And I will actually say that this, if you ask me, is the start of Industry 4.0 and the next big opportunity for India's BPM industry. Because all of us...
Can you explain that 4.0? You mentioned it last time also, I didn't fully understand.
You see, because if you look at any of the traditional verticals that we all service, whether it is insurance or travel or healthcare or whatever, all of us pre-COVID also had created digital assets and digital journeys for our clients, right? Some of them accepted them and moved down the journey very quickly. But many, it was fashionable to talk about from a CEO's point of view on the other side, but they found it difficult to actually implement it because their organizations were very large, very bulky, unwieldy to some extent. Sometimes the brand was created by multiple mergers and acquisitions, right? So whereas you saw one brand across the globe, actually there were 15 mini brands inside that company, right? And therefore for the CEO to take that final decision saying, you know what, I want this end-to-end journey, it was not that easy at that point in time. But with COVID, what has happened is the end customer of theirs is also saying, I do not want to have a physical touch point, right? I want to go the Google way. I want to go the Amazon way. I want to go the Apple way. And so they are scurrying behind us now to help them drive these kind of initiatives. So if you look at insurance, today it will start with self-service portals, go much more into hyper-personalization. We have created something called insurance in a box. We have even branded it, and we think it will start disrupting parts of the industry. On the finance side, again, all of us have created new offerings that involve domain, technology, and an end state for our customers. And in every one of the businesses, healthcare, if you look at it, it has changed forever, because not only is now digital solutions and technology being accepted, but across the world, legislation itself is being changed. Because the doctor also doesn't want to meet you or me anymore, right? He or she is happy to do it, offline. So that's big opportunity. Banking, financial services, it's going to be completely cashless. It's going to be led by digital. It's going to be led by hyper-personalization. So I can just go on with each business, but that's the exciting future that is going to drive at least excitement for all of us for the next few years at least.
Shilpa?
Yeah, many questions pouring in. This
Yeah, I
question is
know.
from Manipal Reddy. How do you think AI-based automation is going to impact the career prospects of people in the BPM sector?
So look, I think this is a case for massive reskilling. Okay, I think data sciences, AI, ML is the next career for most of our young people. I compare this with what happened with the Y2K long time back, but just many more times in scale. And given the kind of skill base that we have today,
Louder.
is going to be
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Go on, go on.
this is going to be a big shift in what I would see young people study today. And therefore AI, ML, starting with data sciences, AI, ML, knowledge of R, Python, and all of that is going to create opportunities for young people in such a massive scale. That's the future of the next decade of this industry, and it's going to be driven by India. So I think it's going to create massive opportunities, and I want people to look at it in a way that, at one point of time, computers in itself are considered to be threats to employment. If you computerize, I come from a banking industry where computerization was resisted by the unions just because it's going to take jobs away. And that I'm talking about the 1990s. Look at what's happened to computerization and jobs in computer. So all of this, which is ML, AI, and all of that, if you look at it the wrong way, it's going to take jobs away. But if you look at it the right way, that you actually get engrossed in what it's actually creating new opportunities for, it's going to far outrun the jobs that automation is going to.
What about domain experts, Partha? The one you mentioned, nurses and doctors and CAs and all of those. What's the scope there?
On this?
Yeah, for those kind of people, what's the opportunity in the coming times, you think?
See, I would say that if you look at something called care management, and I briefly mentioned that how do you manage a care regime through outreach programs? Somebody who's got a diabetes situation, somebody who's got a hypertension situation, right? There, basically, you have algorithms. We've got algorithms which actually say that if you have a patient with these kind of long-term care needs, then this is the kind of intervention that is most effective to keep them out of trouble. Right? So those deep AI-driven algorithms actually give you a care regime that helps you manage your outreach program and keeps your client is the insurance company. And you are basically telling the insurance company, I'm going to keep your member healthy. And this is how I'm going to do it, because I've got proprietary AI-based algorithms, which is going to help me manage them, stick to their care track.
Okay.
Sujit, can I come in here? Because I'm assuming the guy who asked this question is a student, right?
Yeah, could be. We often have a lot of students watching.
Yeah, so I really want to, I think we should give comfort and confidence to the talent force of the future. I want to talk about a few things. Every revolution that we have seen, whether it is the agri revolution, the industrial revolution, the technology revolution, and now the transformation revolution led by some of these technologies that Partha and all spoke about. We always start by being worried about what impact it will have on jobs. But actually what it does, it expands the market. It creates even more excitement for everyone. And it actually creates many more new jobs, right? Even in the last 2 years, look at the BPM industry, when we are going through this huge change, huge transformation. Even when NASSCOM announced, net growth in headcount, NASSCOM originally gave lower numbers and then had to change the numbers because we created many more jobs than what we had spoken about earlier. So that is the first comfort. Having said that, one has to understand that they have to keep upskilling themselves, have to keep making sure that they're relevant for a future where technology, digital, domain, all of this is becoming, so very important. And to give comfort, I can tell you from a NASSCOM point of view and from an industry player point of view, we have learned so much with COVID, and we have got so much of confidence in terms of how we manage this. We are now working with the government in a special task force in order to create models where the current work from home can be extended as a permanent model for the long term. That is one. We are looking at not just the traditional areas of you know, the DOT norms and SEZ norms and things like that, and the OSP discussions. But more importantly, we are looking at changing dramatically the labor laws of this country at center and state level, so that we can create more employment opportunities for part-time people, for the gig economy. I see no reason why people can't have 3 jobs, right? And why we can't take this business to the tier 3, tier 4 locations of this country. And some of us have actually started creating what we call hub, spoke, and edge models from an infrastructure point of view. The hub is the traditional office where ultimately people will come back to. Edge is the work from home model. But in many countries, we have also started creating a satellite office close by, which is 200 seats, 500 seats, to enable much more flexibility and therefore employment. So I think people should have a lot of comfort and confidence around the fact that we are talking about growth of the industry, expansion of the market, and therefore they should be ready. And we will obviously take the right people. We will not take people who are wrong for the industry.
You're talking
I
about
think
people.
the number of jobs would increase, but also the quality of the job is going to become a lot better.
Okay.
I think the human mind always wants to work on new things, wants to work on intellectually stimulating things. And I think the quality of jobs that are going to be available because of AI is going to be a lot better.
Okay.
Sujit, we recently launched a report where we are saying unearthing the potential of data and AI by 2026, 2025, when India achieves a $5 trillion economy business. In that GDP economy of $5 trillion, $1 trillion, the digital economy. One of the biggest things is there's an opportunity for 50 billion to 500 billion to be unearthed from using data and AI in multiple segments, but 9 different segments, retail being top, financial services, etc., etc. These are just not going to come just like that. This is going to go for a huge plan of action of planning in terms of talent, action of planning in terms of governance, action planning in terms of the applications, the complete thing put together. Answering all these gentlemen just said, the opportunity is going to be much more than what we think and fear about.
Since you're talking about people, there's this question from Hardik Radia. Will BPM industry embrace the gig economy services with increasing adoption of work at home model in post-COVID world?
Hardik, he works in HGS, so that name. So yeah, I would allow the others to talk about it because I can speak to you offline.
Look,
Okay.
I think companies are going to adopt a flexible business model, and that therefore necessarily involves, the gig worker as well. I think companies will move to a format where you have permanent staff, you have, flexible temporary staffing, you have gig economy, you have people that you can bring in as specialists, for a certain part of a project. And there'll be many different ways of talent mobilization and orchestration of talent. So I think that's something which creates a lot of flexibility for organizations, but it also creates a lot of flexibility for the individual, employee and the worker, because you can be productive from home. You can actually, have a number of diverse skill sets being brought in. A lot of people who've got other kinds of, things that they aspire to do will be able to do that, as such. So I think the workforce is going to change quite significantly over the next few years.
Okay, much more diversified.
Again, to give comfort, we are doing all that is required to enable a work from anywhere model.
Anyway.
We are also ensuring that by taking this model to tier 3 and tier 4 locations with changes in the labor laws. Listen, I must say, if we have to get the changes in the labor laws through as well, right? And we are pushing for it, because without that, it can be difficult, right?
Specifically what, Keshav?
Employment and things like that.
So today we are covered by Shops and Establishment Act. Keshav is asking for a labor law for knowledge workers.
Okay.
Yes. And at the same time, the other big thing that we are going to enable by doing all of this is, we are looking to enable the 110 million women in India who have a secondary education degree, but who are not part of any workforce because they want part-time employment, right? So we have thought this all very carefully through, and we are actually having discussion. So if all of this happens, that 38% for the industry that KSV spoke about may go to 65. I don't know.
Okay, Shilpa?
Yeah, we have this question from Rajit Nair. How do you think employment generation is going to pan out in the next 2 quarters? Also, if you can shed some light on the newer skills taxonomy that's emerging in the BPM space and the career roadmap that aligns with it.
Who wants to take that? Partha?
I think, for us, it's been hiring as usual, actually. We would typically end up hiring from the assessments that I've made. We will probably hire anywhere to the tune of 2,000 to 3,000 people in the next 2 quarters. So there has been no change in hiring plans. Though I have to make sure that it is understood that COVID is still unpredictable, right? So we don't know which way this thing will go. If what we've seen today is the trend going forward, I think that's the way the numbers would look like, at least for the next 2-3 quarters.
What kind of people, Partha?
Our usual. So we have a whole mix of healthcare professionals. We take chartered accountants, engineers, regular science graduate, graduate is a minimum. So I think there is enough opportunities for them, at least in the short term, unless COVID really changes trajectory and becomes much more severe than it is till today. I see that coming in. I think the career of the future is definitely data sciences, and that's really a hot skill that everybody's looking for. And there is also the industry stepping up, the education industry is also stepping up. And now you have this whole choices of online courses, MOOCs, etc., where you can sign up for introduction to data sciences and really take it advanced. If you look at some of the hot skills that I see coming up, would definitely be around programming languages like R and Python. He talked about work from home, really creating opportunities from tier 3, tier 4. And look at what it's going to do. It's going to decongest the city, because you're going to be able to sit at home. You've got college in the morning, and then you come back and you can work for us, and then work for this industry. And then you've got tuitions in the evening, you can just switch back. So actually working for 2-3 companies is going to be pretty easy, I would say. That's the classic gig economy that we're talking about. It's going to really create a lot of opportunities for people going forward. But yeah, I think Keshav mentioned that. I think skilling in the right skill, the hot skill today is data sciences. And I think that's what my advice would be to young people who really wanting to make a career.
Sujit, I will put it, rewind back to 2000, the industry was coming up. I would say it's a re-inflection point for the industry in 2020. As we look forward to the future, industry is just buzzing with opportunity, clarity, vision is there where we need to go. It's a question is industry will do everything in-house to create that domain skill that is required, specialization skills required, verticalization skills required. You require that brand of people that is required, or aspirational, strong on attitude, strong on learning. Just get it up. The industry is going to refresh itself and run. Exactly the same inflection point as it was in 2000. An industry knew what we wanted. Action was in place. Just got to act together. I think in the similar boat right now. I'm sure Keshav and Rohit will agree to that, because you have seen this industry 20 years back.
Keshav, Rohit, you want to pitch in? Because this is a hot topic with our viewers, because they are young and looking for jobs and all that. What's the future look like?
I absolutely agree with what's been said. But if you take a look at the BPM industry, I think KSV also gave the statistic that the KPO part of the business for the industry is now 22%. If you take a look at a company like ours at EXL, for us, data analytics is 38% of our revenues. And this is on a standalone basis, because there's a lot of data and analytics that we embed into the operations management business that we don't charge separately for, and we don't pull that out as a separate as part of this 38%. This industry is going to really grow rapidly on analytics, on data management, on AI, on machine learning. In that direction, there's going to be a tremendous amount of growth. And that growth is obviously going to be fueled by the talent that needs to be there, that needs to be able to drive that growth, as such. So I think we're going to create a lot of opportunity. The enterprise of the future in BPM is going to be an entity where every part of the process that we run is going to have an AI algorithm embedded in it. And every decision that is made, every step, that is, undertaken is going to have, a machine learning or an analytical model or an AI model behind it. It's going to have a lot of automation behind it. So it's going to be very, very intelligent, very, very value added. And I think it's going to grow in size and scale. That will create employment, but it will create good employment. It's not going to create, employment which will get cannibalized very quickly. It's going to create very long-term value-added employment, which I think is really exciting.
You should want to add?
Yeah, so I will just say that, all of this absolutely rings true, and you will see that the companies that are investing behind some of the things that Rohit spoke about are going to be the people who will be creating new employment, creating new kind of exciting, futures, will want to hire many more people. All of us actually are winning boatloads of business, even during COVID. All of us are continuing to hire people in some specific processes and things like that. And so from our point of view, we will do whatever is required that is in our control. But also remember, what is not in our control, we can only try to manage. And I really want to speak a little bit about that. COVID, for example, has not gone away yet. It is still there. We don't know how long it's going to last for, right? And if it lasts for a longer period of time, you have to understand that in terms of the demand trends, while all of us are delivering extremely well, they're delivering work from home beyond 97, 98% at this point in time, based on the existing volume. We feel the volume can be much higher, but that volume is still not there because airlines are still not flying, travel sector is still impacted, the insurance companies are still impacted, the logistics companies, the shipping companies are still doing blank sailings, the cruise liners have only now started introducing, some amount of cruises. Retail side has come back from essential to even non-essential, but not at the same level as before. So we have to wait to see when it will become normal. But I can tell you, when it does, all of these guys will want to interact with smart companies who can dramatically scale them and introduce them to digital models. One. The second thing is, if you look carefully at what has happened in the last 6 months around, some of the digital attackers, the Googles, the Apples, the Teslas, all of these people, and look at their market caps. Many of them have actually doubled during COVID and that actually defines a trend. It is actually saying that people want to interact in this format, and therefore companies like ours who can help them, because now they're growing so fast that they need help also from people behind the scenes to manage the customers and the clients that they have brought in, right? And that's where people like us come in. But that's where NASSCOM comes in. NASSCOM and the government is focusing on skilling and many other things that Partha is driving to make sure that every company has the opportunity to push India to the next level, as opposed to only just the smart companies, right? And I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, sorry if I may interrupt one more time. So I think NASSCOM skilling initiative is really, really important, because what we are doing is creating modules for specific domains which we believe are going to be hot domains for us. So it's not just about generic skills like data sciences. It's also about creating domain specific, so financial services, healthcare. And this is not just normal healthcare, right? This is very specific to how do you handle what is specific to healthcare insurance. So NASSCOM is doing some fantastic work in future skills. And if you look at NASSCOM, KSB, how many programs do you run on future skills? What's the core content that you have?
There were 13 technologies, 11 technologies, 3 more on the soft technologies, or 14 technologies on which the programs have been launched. Is a care method, everything is there. And close to about, say, 4 lakh people have registered. and is growing and taking across. It's on the, and we're also launching a big program along with Government of India as the Future Prime for anyone and everything what he needs to do. I think, Sujit, there's one more last point I would like to make here. The attractiveness of this industry is so good. Out of the global top 50 revenue earners of BPO industry, but 43 of them are present in India. 43
Okay.
From the top 50 globally internet service providers, 43 of them are present in India to tap the resources.
Okay.
And out of the total 50, 12 of those companies across near billion mark or near reaching a billion mark are from India. That's the kind of business we're talking about. 12 companies of 50 are from Indian origin, the top 50, and 43 of them are present here. That's a size that how this country has evolved themselves to be to serve the future.
Okay. Rohit is running out of time. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Rohit. You're right. I mean, we said 1 hour, but sometimes it tends to go a little more. Rohit, please, I know, in case you have a hard stop, there are a couple of more questions, but I mean, if you have something to, you have a hard stop, then please, it's fine. Not a problem.
Well,
yeah? Thanks so much.
I'll step out here, but thank you so much for having me on this panel. This was a wonderful conversation. All I can say is 20 years have been a terrific journey. We've gone through ups and downs as an industry, as a company, but and we had the biggest scare of our lives just a few months back, but now we feel all very, very comforted, and we look forward to the future. And I think it's an exciting future ahead for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rohit.
Keshav, Partha, KSV, few more minutes.
Yeah, I'm okay. Few more minutes is fine.
Keshav?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. Just a few minutes.
Okay. Shilpa, we'll wind this up quickly. Any what questions do you have?
Yeah, this one is coming from Avesh Jha. How are you enabling the work from home ecosystem, considering that, most of the companies are moving, work home?
Okay, Avesh Jha is again an HGS employee. So, Keshav, I'm going to brainwash him separately. I will give you the chance to brainwash him.
I think what we have done is, we've obviously worked closely with all our clients to co-create solutions to enable the people as well as the accessories to move to homes. From an industry point of view, actually behind the scenes, we have also worked with the OSPs by giving them the general locations city-wise where, the industry players live actually, so that as far as possible, uninterrupted power and bandwidth is made available. And beyond that, I think many of us are really focused on ensuring that we are concentrating a lot on health, well-being, and the HR philosophy. So, for example, we have introduced some very interesting bots on the HR side so that people sitting at home can actually manage their day-to-day HR issues, because they're not actually interacting with their bosses, managers, stuff like that today, right? So you need to have that. There are other bots that have been created that takes care of their upskilling requirements and just focuses on skilling requirements. We also have teams of people interacting with people, sitting at home to make sure that they are working certain number of hours. Because I think one of the areas that we as an industry and Partha again is driving that for us is to make sure that as this pandemic continues and work from home becomes a way of life, we know that every home is not geared for a work from home kind of initiative, right? We know also that lots of people come from tier 3, tier 4 cities into the tier 1 cities, and they share an apartment. And therefore, 4 people sitting in an apartment may work for 4 different tech companies, right? How do we also make sure that first and foremost, that the security standards are not diluted? There are many solutions that have been created, including proctoring solutions that we have created for our people that are taking care of it. But more importantly, how are we making sure that they are not, day and night is not getting extended, and work is not getting extended into the home time as well. And things like well-being is another thing that we are having lots of discussions on, both with clients as well as with our teams. And we have lots of programs. And I think generally across the industry, there is this expectation that maybe 20-25%, even in the long term, will continue to work from home, depending on what business you are in. But at least at WNS, I tell people that at some stage, expect to come back to the office, because there is a certain rigor, there's a certain discipline, there's a certain way of working from office that customers want and we also want. And in certain businesses, it is much better to be at office as opposed to home, right? But in the interim, we're doing whatever we can to enable our people while they work from home. And again, I can tell you also, I must mention this, that one of the serious issues that we are talking about and creating some work studies on is on well-being, mental health issues, things like that, where even clients have said that they have actually seen issues of domestic abuse. We've not seen that generally in the industry in India now, because most companies have been extremely responsible in terms of deploying some of the things that I spoke about.
Sure. Great. There's a question from Murugesh Kalapa Gaudar, but it's a question all of you are kind of answered. It's about captive MNC centers. So Murugesh, I guess you would have given the question around the time that they were all speaking about this, and they answered it in detail. There's this question from Sanjay Bhatt. Would be nice if each leader can share one new opportunity area they have identified due to the pandemic, which they now want to use to transform their own companies for the future. This also, all of you have in some ways answered. Anybody wants to add anything at all?
No, answering the earlier question, also Keshav talked about the future of work that he talked about. It's going to be completely different. So in terms of not only the regulatory, DOT, OSP, etc., mental wellness that Keshav talked about, we earlier talked about the labor laws, what it gets done if somebody is working from a remote location. As it is today in BPM is getting delivered, BPM service is getting delivered from 67 different locations in the country, and semi-urban and urban location. As I speak to you, as we go forward, this number will multiply by twice, 3 times, but possibly you will find 150, 200 locations now delivering BPM services. So obviously, the cost competitiveness, the wage act, the everything comes into play. So one impact that each of the companies have done is in terms of ability, the long productivity, mental wellness, what you think, the water cooler movement that is required in office environment that Keshav talked about is also being talked about. Hotspot, maybe create an office environment for people nearby. We can come and meet for some time, maybe conduct a regular training program. All these things are being initiated in industry for the wellness of its people.
Okay. Shilpa, shall we wind it up? Yeah. One question from last question from my side. How important is India still in your? I mean, all of you have operations across the world. I don't know how many countries. I think I mentioned WNS probably has some 16 countries. That's true for most of you, or all of you. How important is India still in your overall operations? Is the importance reducing? Are you expanding in other countries more? How is it?
See, it's no longer an India story. That's something that I want to just mention. We all of us started with our bases in India, and we've spread globally. So the industry is not just an India story, and our story is therefore not just an India story as well. I sit out here in India, and I know Keshav sits out here in India. We've been grounded for the last 6 months, because I don't remember ever in my life that I've worked in this industry that I have not caught 3 flights a week. So I am actually having withdrawal symptoms when I don't go to the airport and don't catch a flight. I feel that, I'm having fever as if I've not done something. So it's just become second nature. But specific answer to your question, India is very important in the whole thing. I can talk about my company per se. A lot of decision making still happens in India because we are India listed. So a lot of our shareholders are India, and we are India listed. Therefore, a lot of decision making happens in India. It's different for the others. Some of them are not listed in India. So Keshav, I will allow you to speak as to what you think about this question.
Sure. In fact, I will say very, very clearly that India will continue to be a very important location for WNS, and not just WNS, for the entire industry.
Yeah.
It is it is essentially because of the fact that, this model that we have created for the globe started in India. And I like to think of it that in this way, we have expanded the shores of India to 15 other countries, right? Into the Philippines, into South Africa, into Romania, into Poland, into the UK, US, all these other countries, because of the need to provide to global clients a unified end-to-end wing-to-wing service, such that they could actually work with one partner who was operating as an extension of the enterprise. If a part of the process had to be answered with a particular accent, it happened out of the UK or South Africa or the Philippines or whatever, and thereafter the rest of the process transitioned seamlessly to another part of the world, and we did it. You come to any NASSCOM event and sit in that event, you will see in the audience people coming from the Business Process Association of the Philippines, South Africa, Romania, Poland, coming to learn. And we invite them. We bring them in because it helps the overall business and it helps India. I can tell you there is no other country where the state governments and the central governments work closely with organizations like NASSCOM and the individual companies to create strategic programs and centers of excellence which will drive the future of the overall industry and therefore create employment in India. If you look at the whole AI model, I just got off a call just before this with Ketia, the IT minister of Telangana, and they have announced an AI initiative that will transform India, but many states have started doing it. Similarly, you look at analytics, analytic hubs, KSV has created all over. You look at startup ecosystem, NASSCOM and others have created the startup ecosystem all over India. Therefore, if you look at it, where are the people? Where is the talent? Where is the English speaking ability? Where are the people hungry to learn more and have access to digital assets? It's in India. India to rule the roost for many, many years. I'm very comfortable. And many of us will continue, therefore, to live in India and run globally.
Yeah, so it's made in India, exported globally is the way I kind of, it is made in India. It is just completely up to Mr. Modi's vision. This is made in India for the whole world.
One point,
yes,
Sujit.
last word to you.
Yeah. As I said in the earlier, during Keshav's time, in 2011-12, we were wondering how to rebrand India. What is that significantly changes India's perception to move from BPO to BPM? One key thing that time was globalization. That we don't look at one country, they just put together the entire globe together. Globalization is what the Indian industry done. In 2020, it's a globalization plus. That is not only in globalization in scale that we talked about, globalization in terms of AI that we talked about, what needs to be done, and just bring the change and digital transformation that globalization is going to help because of sheer volume and scale of qualified people that we have in the country is unprecedented. Much as Keshav and even Partha would love to go, we will not let them go, not to worry.
Wonderful. Great discussion. So trust in India has gone up a lot thanks to the pandemic. India is going to remain the central part of this industry for years to come. For young employees and students, focus on data analytics, AI, ML, Learn, R, and Python. These are going to be really, really important for you. So wonderful discussion. Lots of messages there. Thanks, KSV. Thanks, Keshav. Thanks, Partha. Rohit has left. Thanks so much. Wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, Shilpa.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, Partha. KSV. Good to meet you.
KSV and
See you soon again.
See you. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.